Hi everybody, this is Maureen Wong for mycasestudies.blogspot.com. Today we're going to be making this origami crane charm, and you can use it as an actual charm on a piece of jewelry or as a piece of card decoration. So let's get started. I'm using the set origami from Altenew, specifically the crane, and I've already got it put into my MISTI, and I've got a piece of watercolor cardstock. And I'm going to be stamping with my Versamark ink, and I've already treated my cardstock with my anti-static powder bag because I'm going to be embossing with gold detail embossing powder. Now I put on the gold detail and I was just getting ready to heat it when I realized that there was a little bit of stray powder, so I'm going to take a straight pin and brush that off and blow it out of the way before I actually get to heating the image. And here it goes, melting. And then I'm going to cut that out with my scan and cut. And now I've got it stuck down to a board, and I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. I'm just taking some clean water, and I've got my distress inks. I've got Salty Ocean and Mowed Lawn, and I'm putting in the Salty Ocean first. And that's a little bit too much, so I come in with the Mowed Lawn because I want to make kind of a marbled effect. So I'm putting just a little bit of the Salty Ocean on one side and then putting the Mowed Lawn on the other side. And I'm going to make sure that they blend together nicely. And for the beak portion, or head portion I guess it is, I'm just using the Salty Ocean. And as you can see, for most part, I'm not going into sections that are touching each other. Even though there is gold embossing, which tends to keep the colors separate, the gold embossing powder is detail embossing powder, so it's actually not super raised. So what I'm going to do is try and keep the sections separate until they're dry. And I'm going to take my heat gun and heat this up for a little while until I'm sure that it's dry. And now that it's dry, I can come back in and do the remaining sections in the exact same manner, which is putting the clean water into the whole section first, then picking up the Salty Ocean and putting it on one end, and then picking up the Mowed Lawn and putting it in the other end. And if you think there's too much of one color, just go ahead and add back in the other color, which I will be doing in just a minute. And you just keep doing that for all the sections until you get it to how you want it to look. And the whole point, though, is that I want it kind of marbled, so I don't want them mixing together too much. I want to keep the colors mostly separate with just a little bit of blend. So I'm not going to play with it too much. So I actually have to really resist the urge to play with it because watercoloring is just so much fun to play with. So now I'm going to heat that up again. Okay, and now as a finishing touch, I noticed that a couple of sections have just a little bit too much of the Mowed Lawn. So I'm going to come in and put a little bit more of the Salty Ocean and then clean off my brush and blend that out into the Mowed Lawn section. So, and just a little bit more Salty Ocean there. And then on the head area. And then on this body area, I'm just going to put that Salty Ocean over the whole section and then heat it with my heat tool. And then what I'm going to do here is come in with this small bottle of glossy accents, and I'm going to cover the entire crane with it. You want it to be not super thick, but thick enough that it'll be a nice protective coat on the whole crane. And then I'm going to let that sit and dry. What I've done in the meantime is I've cut out 3 more of that same crane shape with my scan and cut, just using the original one as a pattern, and then I cut this out 3 times. If you don't have a scan and cut or some sort of way to electronically die cut it, you can go ahead and just stamp the same crane stamp on heavyweight white cardstock and cut it out by hand. And I'm using multi-matte medium here to glue the 3 layers together. It's a very heavy cardstock, plus the matte medium is going to make for a very sturdy base for my charm. And so I'm just going to stick those all together and make sure they're perfectly lined up, and then I'm going to set that aside to dry. Now that my layers are all dry, I'm going to take a piercing tool, and it's actually a really fine piercing tool which makes it easy to get through all those layers. If I was smarter, I should have pierced them before I actually glued them all together, so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting through all those layers, but eventually I do. And then I'm going to use the same multi-matte medium to glue that colored portion onto the base. And again, line that up exactly, and they will all line up exactly because they were all cut from the exact same pattern. And then let that sit and dry. Now it turns out that my hole is just a little bit too small for my purposes, so I got a bigger needle and I'm shoving that through there and widening the hole, and I apologize for going out of frame. I've got a jump ring that I've opened up already, and I'm going to stick that into the hole that I've made, and now it's big enough for that to fit, and then I use my pliers to shut the jump ring. And there you go, the finished crane, and I hope you like it, and thank you very much for watching.